Hey everyone. Hey, what's going on? How you all doing this evening? How you all doing? Listen, it's Dr. Dawn and I am here live with Dr. Dawn on OG. Live with Dr. Dawn on OG. So welcome to another impromptu broadcast. Seems like that is what's working for us as of late because everyone I know is busy. I know I'm busy, but not too busy to join you and for you to join us and us learning from one another. So thanks so much for tuning in to another broadcast. Hey, John. All right. I'm going to invite you into the room, buddy. What's going on? And let us know that you're here. Let us know where you're viewing from. Let me see. Trying to invite you in, John. Yes, sure. Let me look for you. ADHD. I think my phone has had it today. There we go. Hey, Mindful Sweets. Thanks for joining Three Friends Talk. What's up, ladies? Whitney, Rashay, what's going on? How you doing, sister? How you doing?
Oh, wait, my camera's turned backwards. Lord have mercy.
This MD collect. Listen.
Oh, wait, hold up, hold up. Is it gonna work?
I
You know what? All right, this is hilarious. Let's see if it wants to work.
I know that type of day. Hey,
It won't even
Monty,
turn. It
how
won't
you
even
doing?
turn.
You want to turn?
Not at all. So it does
Bless.
this. Jesus Christ. Hold on. I'm gonna
Okay,
disconnect and then reconnect.
no problem. No problem. How y'all doing this evening? Last time I know I was like way up here, so I apologize. We are gonna wait till ADHD John gets on. All right, here we go. Here we go. How's everybody doing this evening? Hope y'all doing okay. I hope y'all doing well. Hope the hello
What
signs are
in
getting good.
Lord, this thing does not want to work. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go and I'm gonna reset the camera. So give me like
Okay,
1 minute.
man, do your thing. It's all good. Technology is good when it works. We all know that, right? Technology is good when it works. Hey, Three Friends Talk. So listen, y'all, tonight we are talking about ADHD and overexplaining because it is a true phenomenon. Um, a lot of things that we're doing with ADHD this month are many are set criteria of symptoms of ADHD. Hey, Chris. What's up, Chris Keys? And so we'll, in our posts, if you actually follow people who are advocating for ADHD Awareness Month, you'll see that. But tonight, and I guess once a week, John and I have been getting on here just having a conversation. And we just come up with a topic that's related to ADHD and our personal experience in having ADHD ourselves, because ADHD is different in everyone, but there are certain generalizations that
Can you see me?
we find funny because we talk about all the time. Like, oh, shoot, you do that too? Oh, okay. So it's not a part of the criteria, but it's something that we experience often.
All right,
I
so
like
I'm gonna
this.
do it like this.
I see you with the double screen.
Oh, this is my work computer. Let me see if this will work. I'm gonna
Okay.
turn the camera backwards. So if anything, what's gonna have to work is you have to read the questions. Does this work?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. All
That's
right.
perfect.
Sorry about that. This is ridiculous.
Whatever. What are you apologizing? It's all good. And
How are you doing
I
tonight?
mean, I'm over here on 5% battery talking about preparation, right?
You are a trip.
With my cap on. So how you doing?
I am fine. I'm tired. I just started back at the gym today. After being sick for about a little bit over a week. I thought it was
Oh,
I thought it was COVID, but I took two tests. They both came back negative, but I had a lot of the symptoms of it, and the biggest one was the chills and constant fatigue. So, that fatigue is finally subsiding. I have a lot of my energy back, and I'm just trying to make do with what I possibly can. But that gym whooped my butt today.
my God. Oh yeah. Yeah. Get back in the routine always does, doesn't it? Like, why does it take
Exactly.
so long for your body just to kind of, we know why, but dang, you gotta take so long, you know?
Yeah, it's you're trying to break habits, and build
Mhm.
a new habit. And sometimes you have to give the body like 21 to 28 days. I say a little bit over a month to adjust. And once you
Yeah.
start getting the ball rolling, you can get into that anabolic state where, you know, the weight loss starts coming in and then the muscle growth, all things like that. So it's going to be worth it in the end.
I know that's right. We need to have a live on that.
Hey, I'm down for it. My trainer would love to definitely be on it. He's sharp as a tack. Um,
What's up,
he's
Cammy?
he's so awesome when it comes to understanding the human mind and how it all connects with exercise. So I would definitely like to get him to
Yes.
join us one day.
Okay. Let's make it happen. I'm down
Yes,
for it.
ma'am. How
All
about yourself? How
right.
you doing?
I'm good. Man, I'm tired. I'm gonna lie.
Yeah.
I'm wore out. It's been an interesting week. It's nonstop. So
Hmm.
this is actually, hey, ADHD memes, just saying shout outs real quick. This is
Okay.
actually a week where I'm just like, let me just get through it and then kind of relax. Probably turn off the phone this weekend, another weekend where I turn off the phone and just kind of yeah, relax. So
Disconnect to reconnect. There you
yeah,
go.
yeah. Cammy says I'm a chem major, so this convo resonates with me. All
All
right.
right.
So,
And,
John, let's talk about overexplaining. I was actually just telling everyone, and I'm sure a lot of people know. So, just having a conversation with people that, there are certain set criteria for ADHD. We know that they are in the realm of hyperactivity, impulsivity. Those who have predominantly inattentive type. So, this is distractibility, decreased sustained and focus, those type of
mhm,
things. And then we have those are blessed who have combined type. They have
yeah.
hyperactivity, impulsivity, and inattention. And
Hmm.
there's so many sub symptoms as a part of these, three big major categories.
Yes.
But what I love about our conversations, and we talk about the idiosyncrasies that are related to ADHD, and in our conversation, we're like, oh shoot, you do that too? Okay, all right, I do that as well. And so
Hmm.
I think that you picked a great topic tonight. Definitely credit goes up to John about ADHD and overexplaining.
So it resonated. It was something that, like you said, this week it's been a tough week. I mean, the whole year's been tough, but these past 2 months have definitely been they've been a little rocky. But something about over explaining is something I'm really diving into for my own self, because it's one of my biggest struggles with it. So yeah, I'm ready to go whenever you are.
Yeah. So why don't we just start by explaining what over-explaining is kind of in simpler terms. What is, or give an example of that.
So to me, over explaining is just like you want to relay information. But as you're
Mm-hmm.
relaying it, you're adding more and more on top, like you're layering it. So basically, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it doesn't make sense. And
Mm-hmm.
so you're so focused on trying to get the main point across that you don't realize you're kind of dancing around it. And you can end up repeating a lot of those subjects. And once you do that, what it ends up doing is it makes your listener kind of get a little frustrated in the conversation, and then it also starts to show like a little bit of like unorganization of thoughts within your actual self, if that makes sense.
Perfect. That was the best definition I've heard of it. You were exactly right. I can't say it any different. I think, uh, and I know I be wearing people out. Do you hear me? Like when I have a conversation, especially when you're passionate about a topic with someone, it's like MD Kaleki says, explain over explaining without over explaining it. That's tough, right?
Exactly.
Right on
Right
point.
then and there.
Exactly. And I know I'll be wearing people out because I think part of it is we want to make sure you get it. We want to make sure it's received how we intended. And we also want to make sure we don't forget it. So it's like
Hmm.
all these things are going on at once, and we're still trying to kind of process and how we're trying to explain something in all those three major things for me. Because I was trying to think of, okay, why am I over explaining it?
Hmm.
Um, and I think those are three big things that stand out for me. So one is I want to make sure I explain what I'm wanting to convey. I want to make sure that it was received with the intention and how I conveyed it.
Hmm.
And I want to make sure I don't forget it. So I may repeat certain words or emphasize for emphasis, for example. Man, it is. It's crazy. Especially when you're
Yeah,
passionate about a topic. And I know people be looking at me like, now how many times you gonna say this? Or how many times you gonna say, I got it?
exactly. Like Pete and repeat, just over and over and over. And you kind of do it by default and you don't realize it until somebody says something about it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what what's interesting about this? I get annoyed when people do it to me. I don't know
What?
about you. I'm so serious. And John, I was thinking because it's like, you know what I think? Like you really don't think I'm listening to you.
Hmm.
And these may be individuals that know I have ADHD, or it just may be my perception of them thinking I have ADHD. So I'm like, why is he explaining this to me like 3 or 4 times? Like I didn't get it the first time when I said I got it.
Hmm.
I'm so annoyed by people who do it. And I'm just like, but I do it too. So what's that
Oh,
about?
yes. So, I always believe in this saying where it's the things that you hate or dislike are also the things that you actually are guilty of doing.
So
And when it comes to over explaining, a lot of the time, so I've tried to like break it down and understand it within myself. And what I've come to understand is that I'm trying to relay unprocessed thoughts. I'm trying to take unorganized thoughts and make sense of them so somebody else can make sense of them. But the
yeah,
point is that I haven't taken the time to fully process and organize it. So I'm literally feeding out and I'm getting back the same thing I'm putting out there. And it's a bad habit that we have to actually break. And people don't realize that over explaining, is not just the ADHD thing as well, too. I'm a personal believer that it deals with trauma as well. Sometimes some people feel like they're not heard, and that could have been something that's happened early on in your life where it's happened over and over. So you constantly have to exert yourself and express yourself to hammer in on that thought when you don't realize that what you had to say was already expressed. And it's not the fact that you're trying to make it make sense to them, you're trying to make it make sense to yourself at the same time.
can you repeat the last part? Please, please repeat
So
the last part. Please.
So it's like what you're doing is you're so focused on trying to get someone to understand you to the point that you don't realize that they already understand it. It's you that doesn't understand it. It's you that has like delayed processing. You have not taken the time to organize those thoughts. And when you combine your emotions, when you combine, your excitement into it, you get anxious and it comes into our impulsivity and it just I know with me when I over explain I wear myself out
Yes.
big time. It's mentally draining and then I feel like it's draining other people's energy as well too, so it's something I'm definitely working on in order to improve my own communication habits.
Yes. Man, you just broke that all the way down. And
I
you added,
tried.
no, you did. And you said something very critical in there when you add emotion,
Hmm.
because that emotional regulation part is also key. And it also heightens maybe how we're explaining things, how often we're explaining things, because that's the passion behind it. And then, like you're saying, trying to even understand what we're explaining or even process it, man, that's a lot. That's a lot of energy that's being expended, and a lot of effort that it takes to kind of control the conversation while you're trying to process it yourself.
Hmm.
That's a lot. And I
It
wonder
is.
what, yeah, yeah. And I wonder how many friendships, how many relationships this has impacted. How many
Mm.
relationships? When they don't recognize that this is something, even with or without ADHD, like you're saying, that happens between two people. Because oftentimes, like when I see someone, we talk about communication a lot because communication in ADHD is a huge topic, right?
Hmm.
And this is a part of it. She basically or he basically doesn't understand me. They don't understand that when I'm saying something, it's not necessarily for them; it's also for me.
Hmm.
And when I say, "Well, do you communicate to them?" They were like, "Well, they just don't get it." What do you think we can do other than practice trying to not over explain, but what do you think is one of the solutions? Do you have any idea on how we can convey this to people that we love or are close to us and kind of work with us and meeting us where we are?
Well, so some of the things I've definitely considered is, you know how sometimes some conversations are just impromptu, and it's a spur of the moment and you just want to go ahead and quick response.
Hmm.
Instead, I think a good thing to do is to say, hey, I need a second to process this and organize my thoughts. Give me like 5 minutes or a couple minutes, and can I get back to you? That way you can sit down, you can maybe just word dump everything that you want to say and try to make a little bit of sense of it. um, Creating some form of organization so that you can kind of stay on task. The second thing that I think would work, now, mind you guys, I'm not a therapist, I'm not licensed or anything. I'm just a person with ADHD and trauma with experience.
Which makes you an expert. Come on, you
well,
expert.
well, one of the things I also think about is understanding the person you're communicating with,
Mhm.
understanding how they communicate, understanding how they receive a message. And so we get so focused on having that person try to understand us from how we receive information that we don't take the time to see how they receive information. So that's why it becomes ineffective. I know, like in relationships, it's like learning your love languages. How do you communicate? It's the same thing when you deal with, regardless if it's a relationship or friendship, whatever bond, know the person, know your listener, know your audience, and then just take your time. That'll be the last thing I can say. I know when I over explain, I end up talking fast. And when nobody says anything, I just keep going because I don't know when to shut it off.
Right.
Pacing yourself, I think it's going to be something that can help people kind of gradually break that cycle of just going off into a tangent.
Yes. Hey, you dropping them nuggets tonight. Wow,
Yeah, I think so.
you are. And I see myself in every single point you just made. I
Well, what do
gotta
you
take
think about it?
because yeah, listen, people tell me to slow down. That's how I
Hmm.
know. And I think I explained that again, and I'm over explaining this as passion, right?
Hmm.
Because I'm trying not to forget what I'm saying, and so I think taking, like you're saying, taking your time, maybe taking a break from the conversation, especially if it's important one, so you can process your own emotions. I'm just repeating what you're saying, John, for those who didn't get it.
Hmm.
And also making sure that you slow your pace. The thing about what's interesting about how fast we talk, it gives you an idea of how fast we're thinking.
Yes. Thank God you said that. I was getting ready to ask you that.
Baby, I'm talking about 200 miles an hour. Do you hear me?
Look, it's literally like it's that old, analogy that people say. People with ADHD, our minds are like driving a Ferrari with Geo Metro brakes. You
That's
know
right.
damn well I cannot stop a $200,000 sports car going 180 miles per hour with some busted Geo Metro brakes. It's not going to work. But that's kind of how our mind is. And so how our mind process starts to be reflected in how we relay that information, for one, in talking. um, I don't know if this happens to you, and let me know if this happens at all, but do you ever feel that when you're over explaining or you're trying to like hammer the point in, um, you kind of like jumble on your words, or you find yourself pausing because you can't think of the right words to say?
Hmm. I do. And sometimes it don't even make sense. That's how fast it's going,
Hmm.
and that's how jumbled my brain is trying to communicate. Yes, I do. And I also notice that I can easily go off on a tangent. It's like I'm chasing a conversation. I can't, it's hard to explain. And again, it's like you're repeating the same thing, but you're trying different ways to say it. And so I find myself go off track sometimes.
Hmm.
But yes, to answer your question, I do jump on my words. And then I'm trying to process what I just said while I'm still talking. I think that's part of the jumble. It creates a jumble. It's like I'm
Yes.
talking, I'm trying to process it. It's a
So,
lot of things going on at once.
and you know what? Do you think stress has a lot to do with it? Like stress and anxiety? And do you think it can, like, make it worse when you're trying to explain something when your anxiety or your stress is at elevated levels?
I do. What's interesting is like, okay, so when I'm with my patients, for example, and I'm talking about a mental health condition and I'm breaking it down to make it portable to them and meet them where they
Hmm.
are, I don't have any problem with it. I have no problem. I think when in certain situations, and I think you hit the nail on the head when you said um, that there are times when you haven't processed information that you're trying to explain. That's when it does become a problem for me, more or less.
Hmm.
Um, and so maybe anxiety is a part of that because maybe I don't fully understand my emotions that's attached to that topic. Maybe I don't fully understand the topic. Maybe I don't fully understand my view of the topic.
Hmm.
And trying to explain things, and some anxiety comes in there because part of the anxiety is probably what I'm talking about, but the other part is if I'm conveying my message clearly without being able to fully process it.
Exactly.
So yeah, I do feel anxiety is a part. Anxiety is really a huge component of
Hmm.
ADHD, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and let's even go back to when we were younger. Now, I was diagnosed at 31, so I'm 42, and so I was diagnosed 11 years ago.
Girl, you don't look a day over 21. You better stop playing. You better keep saying it's your 21st birthday
And I
every
feel
single
like
year.
it. No, no, thank you. Appreciate that. Jeez. No, but what's interesting is that when I was in, because I did Montessori, because I think this is important to recognize. I did Montessori, then I was in a magnet program, which is, equivalent to a gifted program, I guess, these days. In those type of programs like Montessori, it's creativity, right?
Hmm.
You can talk all damn day because you're not sitting in a quiet room.
Hmm.
Everybody's doing their own thing at their own pace, which is why I excel in that type of thing. Gifted
Hmm.
magnet program, a little similar. You have Johnny over here that's working out in workbook 4, you got Matthew over here that's working out in workbook 6. So it's kind of similar in nature, right? And so we did a lot of talking too in that type of program when I was in school. Um, but when if I could put myself in these kids' shoes these days, I mean, I can understand that part of this is also wanting to be heard, wanting to
Hmm.
be on point, being cut off, saying you can't talk, stop talking. And if you're working against your own individual impulses, because these medicines don't stop all of that. I would
Yes.
think like 30% of management would be medicine. And I say that percentage to make it affordable. So that people understand that 70% of it is really like behavioral management. Like, let me put myself in a situation where I can try to control this while my 30% medicine part of my medicine helps me. You know what I'm saying? So it still happens even when you're on management. And so, a lot of these kids feel unheard and validated. And so those are critical years, right? When you are
Yes.
trying to learn how to communicate, when you are trying to make sure that people receive the information you intend to give. And those are like, it's like the period where we start to learn effective communication still. I really believe it starts at that young of an age. And then when you have impulses where you keep talking and you told to be quiet, I mean, a lot of that can be carried on to how we even communicate these days and how we see ourselves and how we feel like, I mean, are we being heard? Are we explaining ourselves correctly?
Hmm.
It's like an ongoing thing. I don't know what your thoughts are about that. But and sometimes we're criticized for that.
Hmm.
Um, because that's part of our creativity.
Now, you said something really, really well. You said the word criticize.
Yeah.
And I'll be open and honest. I do not like to watch myself speak on camera. I will not play anything back because I don't like hearing myself speak. And one of the reasons why is because of my lack in confidence of me being able to explain something. And so because of it, I try to avoid, trying to run through playback and then having, critiques on it. And I've linked why I felt that way because the trauma that I've suffered, in my childhood, I used to always try to have to fight to say what I felt or be important or my words to mean something to people. And when you're constantly fighting for that and you're constantly getting shut down, you got to think about that feeling that you feel every single time that happens. It gets embedded into you. It's like it's embedded in your DNA. So the second that something triggers you in any situation where it reminds you of how, the lack of confidence that you have and how low you felt at that moment, it spills into that communication part of it. And that's why I'm just like, I'm over explaining a lot because of the fact I want to make sure that I nail every single point. And it's like I'm constantly adding more onto it, not realizing it's being really ineffective at the end of the day. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. People need to pay attention to the things that happen to you in your childhood. That's traumatic. That's where most of our trauma occurs. And those very feelings, those experiences will affect it will show up in almost all of your actions, whether you believe it or not.
Yeah.
And it's not until you have that mirror held up in front of you and you watch yourself do it, that's when you see how bad it really is.
That's right. I know you can't see the comments. I think you made a powerful statement, first of all. Let me definitely validate what you just said. Seriously.
Yeah, I can't see the comments at all. My phone's turned backwards.
Okay. So this MD Kaleki said, but he explains very well. She's basically complimenting on me. You're breaking it down. You're explaining very well. I think that, and that's why I was saying, like, every time it may not be an over explaining. Let me take you case in point. And again, I can only talk about what I do, right? As a doctor, I know I over explain. Like, and have ADHD. Oh, baby, we're gonna be here for a minute. Because I want to make sure that people don't have like for example, if I give them referral sites or things to read, I'm like, you should have a dictionary to understand what I'm giving you to read. Like what I'm giving you to read should be, I mean, on average, what America leads at 5th, 6th grade level. Like you should be able to understand the literature or the information I'm giving you to read. When something is so complicated as a brain, and I'm trying to break it down, I do a lot of over explaining. And one is because I know I have a concerned parent in my office and they need to hear it more than once. You know what I'm saying? So I think part of it is on purpose or intentional, making sure that I definitely use medical terminology. It doesn't work if I don't use what they're going to read about. I use medical terminology and explain it, break it down, over explain it, because I know I'm dealing with someone who has emotions about their child, which they should. And then secondly, they're trying to process it themselves too. And so I think that in certain cases, it helps, but it's hard to turn off, like you said. And so even MD Kaleki said, well, he explains very well. Yeah, you do. Like, I don't think you over-explained that one segment of this. I know I probably have.
No, I definitely have. Trust me.
But, I think in certain situations, it may be it can be beneficial, depending on, the intent of over explaining. But what we're talking about today, like in forms of trauma as a result of not being felt like being heard, and result of having this ADHD condition, and some of its symptoms actually probably exacerbate this. Yeah, I can definitely agree with you. And it's something, because you have to practice on how to control it and how to know when you're doing it, like you're saying. So there's some signs when you're doing it, talking fast, like for example. Yeah.
You know what? I'll give you like an example of what used to help me in college. So anytime field was mechanical nuclear engineering. So anytime I gave presentations, I will always think of this Dave Chappelle episode called the Wrap It Up box, where he had this box, and as the person is talking, he's like, wrap it up, like shut the F up and wrap it up. So I would literally be presenting in front of people, and I could just see Dave Chappelle in the background, like, bro, you need to wrap it up, like pressing the button. And I'm just sitting there like, okay, I need to shorten this down. And I kind of, adopted that a little bit into adulthood as well too. But, just thinking about everything in, its totality, dealing with ADHD, people need to understand that we have problems with organization, and organization is what's essentially supposed to help us, but we hate organization. So we know it's helpful, but we hate it.
Right.
So it's not just us when we talk and we over explain. it goes into our actions. Like my workspace, my desk is junky as all hell, but I know where everything is. But
I know
somebody else
that's
is not
right.
going to do it.
I call it disorganization within organization.
Yeah, it literally
Coincidence
that.
within disorganization. Sorry.
No, no, you're good. You're good. Look, it's that impulsivity. Trust me, I got you. So it's something about. It's almost as if organization scares us. It's like we have like when we sense it, we're like, oh crap, like we gotta organize now. But when we get in control of our ADHD, which I'm getting help for now, it's learning that organization, it's a skill, it's a habit. You got to do it over and over. You just can't do it once and perfect it.
Yeah.
And I think once I can get myself to do it more often, then I might gain a little bit of confidence in areas of, let's say, keeping my desk neat, or keeping a common area neat, or even speaking, bringing that confidence back.
Yes. I love that. I love that because even as just how our brains are created, how we're created, structure is so important. It,
Yes.
it it validates us. It allows us to see how productive we are. I mean, how we perform. Structure is definitely needed, and it just keeps us in check, in balance, right? And
Hmm.
so when our mind is different or opposite than what's around us or what we're trying to create, it can be exhausting. It can be
Hmm.
exhausting. Do you know, John, that my closet tells me how my mind is? Isn't that interesting? Like if I go into my closet, yeah, seriously, like, and I use that analogy with certain people, and they're like, "Oh my God, you ain't lying," because my closet was, King Perk, 3 months ago, and all of a sudden I can't find it, and it's
Yep.
like,
There you go.
yeah, it's like my how I organize outside of me. Now, this is me. This may not be anyone else, but I find that how I organize outside of me reflects what's going on in my mind.
Yes,
Um,
you nailed it. That is exactly what I was getting ready to think about. Like,
yeah.
address in a second. My bad.
No, no, no. You fine. You fine. So, like, you experience that too? Like, I mean, some days, excuse my language, I have shit everywhere, like everywhere, and I'm just like, yep. I mean, that's what's going on right now. Like, I got about 5 things going on in my mind right now, and I gotta press upon what is a priority. That's another layer of effort that goes into it, and then I'm gonna break
Yeah.
that down and conquer it. So yeah, it's something, and I think
Yeah.
oh, go ahead, John.
Oh no, no, no. You're good. I was gonna basically say, our living spaces reflect our minds,
Yeah,
or anywhere that any space that we're in, we're going to figure out how it can match what our mind looks like, and that's when we become comfortable in our skin because that's how our mind is processing. So, I would love to know what it's like for my mind to be steady, where you don't have to worry about 8 million thoughts or 8 million voices or anything like going off in your head at once, where your mind can just be calm. It could just be blank and you can just zero in and focus. And hopefully one day it can
no,
happen.
no, well, we gotta talk.
Oh, yes.
Yes, because that's my goal in treatment. That's what I do. There is a place where everyone with ADHD can find that space, that area,
Yeah.
that time, that duration. It really just takes working with someone to find the right tools and the right management for you. But it can
Hmm.
happen. It's just that mine is over because what time is it? Right, 7:30. Mine is like,
Hmm. Yep. Gone. Checked out already. Like
I,
you seen Johnny, nope, his mind and clocked right on out. Like
right.
seriously.
Exactly. That's why I stopped seeing patients after a certain time. You know, that's why I started doing certain things after a certain time, and that's my creativity is about to go to 10 right now. This is my time to be very creative, and and I'm single. I live alone, so it's not that I'm in my quiet space. It's that at night that's where the fireworks go off.
Yep.
So, that's another conversation we can talk about too. Is our creativity. And a lot of people be staying up 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, not because of the pandemic, just because, I mean, we're so creative.
Yep. We're
And
operating on the right side of our brain. That's
That's
where the
it.
creativity goes. And we have to learn how to cross that plane and merge
Yeah.
it back over into the logical space. Oh, I'm definitely ready to talk about that. Y'all have no idea. Seriously.
I know you can't see yourself, but dude, it's all over. Okay? I'm
Look,
telling you.
if y'all had my brain for one day, I swear y'all would be taking 3 shots of tequila afterwards because it will drive you insane. And I love our ADHD minds because our, unorganized chaos can become functional and we're super creative, but it wears us out. It literally does. And one of the things, as you know, I've been doing a lot of self reflection. I was talking to my homeboy Bashay um, about saying less is more.
Mm,
And with over explaining, I want to get to the point where I can say less, but nail exactly what I'm trying to relate across to the person who's listening.
yeah.
And I feel that it'll make me more confident as a speaker
Mhm.
and also not being afraid to watch myself present and see that and be able to sit down and give myself critique and then also accept the critiques that are there. So went off to a little tangent right then and there, but it like sparked that thought right on up there.
I'm just looking at you because I think you're an outstanding speaker. I think you're an outstanding speaker. I mean, you present yourself confident. Again, internally, I know that can feel different,
Yeah.
but and I think that's probably the battle is that internally we may feel different what we display externally.
Yes,
Um,
overcoming that trauma. And that's what I'm working to do.
gotcha. Yeah. So let's talk about that. I think that's kind of the last part is that over explaining in trauma. I know we talked a little bit about it, but I think it's something that we should bring back up because I think that is a huge, important comment and mark that you made that a lot of our trauma can be a part of this over explaining phenomenon. For those who are just tuning in, hey everybody. I'm sorry. We had like 43 people that joined, John. I know I can't shout out.
What? Oh,
Yeah.
damn. What up, folks? I'm so
Yeah.
sorry, guys. I can't see it. My front camera, and you can make fun of me all you want to. I got an Android. My front camera
Hey.
didn't want to work. So
Yeah. Yeah, 43 people been in and out of the room. So
awesome.
hey everybody. If y'all gone, we love y'all too. Understand. But let's talk about that because I don't think what's interesting about trauma is that as a psychiatrist, I feel that it needs to be its own classification in DSM-5 or DSM-5 revised or DSM-6, however you want to call it. And I'm so close to presenting that as a diagnosis. If I got time, I will be presenting that diagnosis to the committee for that to
Whew.
be installed because we need to talk about all types of trauma that should be defined not just under PTSD, but has its
Hmm.
own symptom category. And when you talk about trauma and over explaining, can you kind of go back over what give us some ideas what that means?
So I want people to understand that when we're looking at trauma, just like you were saying, the DSM-5, which I have a love-hate relationship with that manual, but
Yeah.
um, trauma is the biggest trigger to almost every neurological disorder that's out there. Trauma can spark up so many of those symptoms of that mental illness or diagnosis right then and there, and it's deeply rooted. And when it comes to trauma and over explaining, like for instance, my story is basically I never felt heard. I never felt as if I was never heard, I was never understood. And if I was never heard and understood, I felt as if what I had to say wasn't enough. So what I kept doing was every single time people would like cut me off in talking or just walk away or tell me, you know what, oh, that's stupid. You don't know what you're talking about. I would try to overpower the conversation by adding more information in there so that you have no reason to not understand me. When really I'm making it that much more difficult for you to understand me.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is when that trauma is unprocessed, so will your thoughts start to be unprocessed. So will your habits. It will start to mimic that. And
Mhm.
that over explaining is the biggest product of it right then and there.
Wow. I'm just letting that sit right there. Because that creates invalidation, that creates low
Hmm.
self-esteem, that creates depression, a number of things, a number of things. And so I worry about those who are not able to identify that this may be a part of that.
Hmm.
And they just keep it to just explaining, no, this is who I am. And this is how people treat me. And this is how I justify me not having friends or so on and so forth. You
Hmm.
know, and it breaks my heart because I think that, you know, when we look at the DSM-5 and criteria and all these things, and we're talking about idiosyncrasies that a lot of people experience, it's so important to make people aware of this. Not
Yes.
to make, you know, not to say that, okay, yes, that's me and I may have ADHD. No, the whole entire point is so that you can be informed so you know how to address people who do, who have ADHD,
Yes.
right? If that's your son, your daughter, your friend, even yourself, give yourself grace. You know, you're not alone. And so, you know, I appreciate you sharing that, John, because, you know, I think that at some degree, I feel, even as a speaker, I feel that I remember the exact speech that I made where I felt confident. And
Hmm.
that was what, a year ago? A year ago. And I mean, I've been speaking like I've held all of these elective positions in high school and college, even in med school. I was class president 2 years. You know what I'm saying? So I placed
Amen.
myself.
Go ahead.
Oh no, and I say that because I feel like you're saying is like, you know, I knew those positions required, you know, leadership. I get that, but part of leadership is being able to convey messages, you
Hmm.
know, to people and lead them, right? And so I was still internally like, you know, but outwardly I was like, I gotta do this. I
Yep.
gotta do this. And I'm sure it came out a lot over explaining, I'm sure. But it wasn't until last year. And I just say that so you can see that it wasn't until last year I felt confident about my speaking. I mean, and this is a person that's been doing it all this time. But
Hmm.
a lot of it had to do with, oh, you know, Dawn, you get good grades, but your conduct, your behavior's not good. You know, you talk when people are talking, you want to, you know, explain things, you get cut off, you know, and
And you take
I
it
still was
hard.
trying as an adult. Yeah. So I get it. I get it. I appreciate you sharing that. I mean,
Oh,
you hit a nerve right there because I'm like, oh, wow.
well,
Yeah. That's happening.
it's that's why I tell people when you go into a field of like mental health and just advocating, you have to get to this point where you have to be very transparent. And being transparent, you also have to be honest. And as you're doing that, you're able to allow yourself to realize who and what you are at that exact moment. And people can see the raw version of you where you take off all those masks, you take off all those layers of like covering up everything that you are. Your flesh is just it's raw. All your scars are showing,
Yes.
and it takes energy and it takes confidence. But the more we do it, the more we get into healthier practices as far as overcoming any type of obstacle that's in our way that
Yes.
has led to these habits. It makes us feel better at the end of the day.
Yes, it does.
But it takes a lot of time. It
Yes,
takes
it
a
does.
lot of time. Sometimes you got to, like you said last week, give yourself some grace.
Yes. Yes. Give yourself grace. A wild MD Kaleki said, you explained well as a tutor in a Howard Hughes Center at Xavier. Wow.
Wait, what?
Oh
Excuse
my
me? Oh,
God. So
shoot.
yes, Kaleki, I had no idea. So
I can't see anything, so I appreciate that big time.
yes. Thank you.
You got a
Thank you
black
so
dude blushing up over
much.
here.
Right.
You
Tears
can't see the rose red up on it at all, but my soul felt that. It felt it. It synced
right.
it.
I will. I will. Even for parents. Even for parents. Even for parents. You
Yeah.
know, it's interesting because, you know, I have a mom's group, this group of, I will say female caregivers. And all of these female caregivers, in order to be in the group, you have to care for children who have ADHD. So it's about a little over 500 women in the group, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's okay, I got you, Flaky. And what's interesting is a lot of them say, I told him 5 or 6 times, you know. And I think that the focus is on my child's not listening, right? And maybe that, the child may have ADHD and then, this and the other. But I also even bring to their understanding, well, let me understand how you're conveying this, kind of demand to your child. Like, are you having eye contact? Is this something where you're on their level with the tonality of the voice? Like, I'm just trying to understand what's going on. And it's interesting because some of these moms are like, man, I've asked him about 4 or 5 times, but I find myself even in that moment where if my boss tell me 4 or 5 times, like me, I hear him. It's either I don't want to do it, or
Yep.
or they recognize that at that point it's a done deal. Like why are you asking the same question over and over again? You know what I'm saying? And so, it's interesting how, especially moms with ADHD, having children with ADHD, and how that message is conveyed back and forth. Someone says, so true. I'm sorry, Side A says, so true. How is the message being conveyed to the child?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like, what is your communication type? Do you understand how that child receives and processes that information?
right.
Sometimes what you have to do is, I think, so I'm not a parent, but I've talked to plenty of parents that, deal with neurodiverse children. You got to realize this: as a child, you are there to serve your parent.
Hmm.
So regardless of what you do and how you feel, you want to make sure that you do everything in your right mind to make your parents happy, which
Hmm.
means, you know, hiding your emotions, which means putting them on the back burner. Even though you act out, you want to apologize for it. And I feel that moving forward, understanding neurodiversity, especially in the household when it comes to your children, I think parents and children should talk to each other to understand each other. The parent goes to the child and say, hey, how does this make you feel? What can I do to help you out? Help me help you. Like, establishing that bond right then and there. Because sometimes that child, when it's to the point where it's just become a habit where they don't know how to express themselves, sometimes they don't know how to answer you.
Right.
And it's deep rooted.
It is. And let's think about the parental role, right? The parental role is there to teach the child good behavior, bad behavior, reward, consequences. So when you're dealing with that type of level of communication at such a young age, like you're saying, I always want a reward. So I may not really convey my real true feelings to my parent. You know what I'm saying? In that type of, parental child role, right? So I always tell parents, it's okay that after you have the actual lesson of this is good, this is bad, these are consequences for your actions, you also want to convey that expressing your child's emotions to them, like you always want to convey that it's okay to be able to do that. Like, what did you feel? How did you feel when you got in trouble for that? You know, allow because of and I hope I'm making sense to people, because one of the common questions I get, honestly, to her parents and teenagers is, how can I talk to my teenager? And I'm like, wow, I get it. There's so many variables there, but it really starts early. You have to teach your child how to communicate to you, and it's not just about with instruction, right? Where the child is always going to want to please you. But it's also about giving that child space to allow them to communicate their emotions and validate those emotions. But at the same time, making sure that there's a construct to where, okay, this is good behavior, this is bad behavior. But you are in control of your emotions and how you feel about it.
Yeah, but see, I like how you said space, but we need to put a word in front of that: a safe space. A
Yes.
safe space where that
Yes.
child can feel comfortable being authentically themselves.
That's right.
When you,
That's true.
it's like the difference between like a house and a home. A house to me is just a bunch of materials that is built on top of land and foundation that's laid right then and there. But a
Mhm.
home is a space in which you dwell in and you feel as if you're connected. You feel safe in that space. And so you have sometimes a lot of kids. I know I definitely felt it where it was like, look, This house don't feel like my home because I don't even feel safe. I don't feel safe, being myself because I got to worry about, am I saying this right? Am I following directions? Am I going to get in trouble? Versus being able to say, hey, you know what? I don't like this. This is how this makes me feel. Can you come talk to me, or can I talk to you? So creating that safe space is so essential. And
It
then, like you said, you got to start early because the longer you wait, you also realize that you have experiences that get compounded on top of that. As they
is.
mature, those hormones start coming into it. Their
Right.
traumas, so many things happen. And so then you have to sit down and peel back all those layers just to meet that inner child where you could have already had them right when they were younger, before
That's
all
right.
this stuff happened.
That's right. That's right. And it's so interesting because when parents, like I'm thinking of a few parents that have explained it to me, and I'm kind of trying to, how I explain to them is like, as a teenager, you're still meeting that inner child, even when they're a teenager. You know, it's deep. It's deep. It's
Real
deep.
deep.
Yeah. Yeah. No, man, thank you for this conversation. I think
Oh,
I'm
no, thank
always
you. I
enlightened.
love it.
I learned a lot from you, John. That's what I'm saying. Like, you don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to major in this. You're living it. That's expert. That's expert within its own definition.
Well, hey,
It's
we feed off
marketing.
of each other. And it's like people like yourself, a lot of my friends that are in this mental health community, y'all have no idea how much you guys influence me on the daily to just constantly evolve myself and to learn a little bit more because you guys have actually taken the time and made a career about understanding the human psyche, understanding the mind. And it's like, I'm that kid where it's like, oh my gosh, somebody actually just gets me. So I can only be super thankful for people like you. So thank you.
God bless you, honey. Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. And God bless you for being vulnerable, for communicating just kind of your experience. I mean, I know that people see themselves in you. There's a question here for 1177, just me. Do you mentor? She said that her son is 20 and still dealing with a 60-year-old boy. So I'm presuming that that question is directed to you, John. Is there any mentorships that you do or offer or programs or?
I've actually, I have some things in the works right now. I'm getting some certifications and being able to offer services in which I can kind of do like a big brother mentoring type of you know uh, like spare time, basically. I'm working on it right now. I'm putting some things in action. It's on my vision board, and I really wanted to create a brand where, there's that mentorship that is there. There's the coaching that is there. I can be just this big hub where you can just network to so many people because knowledge is so key and everybody has something to bring to the table. So be on the lookout. It's in the works.
Where can people find you?
You can find me, as you can see, on Instagram at ADHD_John. That is with zeros, not O's, because it happens all the time. I'm on Twitter at John_John, same way, and Facebook. And I try to reply back as quick as I possibly can, but I'm gonna let you know now. Social media is overwhelming, and I take breaks. Your boy needs to take. He look. Sometimes you gotta just put the phone down and run away from it. Just move. Just go.
I know that's right. Okay. I know that's right. You actually have two people who are interested in your mentorship program even before it starts.
What? Well, hey,
Yes.
definitely
Sade said
reach out to me.
she's going to enroll her 50-year-old son too.
Hey,
And
I don't have it now, but I do have people that are doing it that I communicate with on a daily. So send me a DM and I'll be happy to talk to you.
yes. Sade said, I'm sorry, well done on the breaks. That's it. And 1177 just me says it's too much for the ADHD folks. It is. It is. I mean, I literally turned off my phone until a couple of minutes before I text you, I think. Um, I was just like, yeah, the bells and whistles sometimes. I'm like, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming from the phone.
It is.
Notifications.
Sometimes
Yeah.
you got to put it on airplane mode or do not disturb. And I'm
Mhm.
trying to find ways to get things done without my phone having to be a necessity, like for music or like a calendar or something. So that's why I try to get really, really creative because literally the phones right now has everybody's attention. And
Mhm.
it's pretty sad. It's
Mhm.
really sad.
Mhm. It does. I do things old school. Like in my ADHD coaching, like I'm like, let's do a calendar where you write in it. Like we don't rely on any technology because what I found in working with those with ADHD is that we ignore the third notification when we know it's the third one because we said it. I mean, what's like,
We
what's the
got to
point
set
of
like
snoozing
8
five
million
times?
notifications.
Right.
Exactly. Look at that. See, that's a shameless plug right then and there. Y'all need to get up on her coaching services. She know what she doing. She know what she doing. So what
I,
you doing?
so I offer my coaching. I'm sorry, y'all. I apologize. I was really giving an example. I offer my coaching services to my patients only, and the only reason is because they really do go hand in hand with behavioral management and med management. And when I'm involved in their med management, I'm so ideal to be able to do their coaching. So, and then I know the people. I really know their behaviors, if you will. So yeah, you have to be a patient of mine, but there's so many awesome ADHD coaches out there too. ADHDcoaching.org, great website. You can find some on chat.org, added to these.org, are access to ADHD coaches, which is my last point. We need to have these ADHD coaching sessions covered by insurance. So many political movements I want to make for the ADHD community. Like it doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
ADHD coaching is not part of the standard of care management for ADHD, but that's another time, another day, another topic. But yeah. John, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
I appreciate you, brother. So what you want to talk about next time? Do we have anybody who wants to have any ideas or topics they want to know about when it comes to ADHD? See if
Um,
somebody, what you think, John?
hopefully somebody can come up with something that's down there. Because typically it just honestly topics just hit me at the random moments. I could be using the bathroom, I could be taking a shower, I could be in the gym, and I'd be like, you know what? We need to talk about this. And boom, that's when you do it. Literally, when I told you this topic, I was sitting down scribbling on sticky notes,
I love it.
and it just popped up.
Woo, we can talk about that. Listen, no, seriously, there is something to ADHD relationship. Oh yeah.
Oh, oh, man.
Oh, Sade putting it on us. Yeah.
Whew.
Ooh,
Lord have
let's
mercy.
talk about that. Let's talk
Shoot.
about ADHD relationships.
Yeah, that one. I'm still learning that one.
Okay.
Shoot.
Shadi got another good one. ADHD and applying for jobs.
Oh, yes. ADHD in the workforce and how there is a fact people with ADHD tend to have issues maintaining jobs.
Yes. And we have a history of multiple jobs. Yes, you're exactly right.
Yes.
For many reasons. You're exactly right. I'm not a parent, but I'm a teenager. Oh, we have a teenager on. I'm not a parent, but I'm a teenager, but I really have taken your advice and it helps for real. I have bad ADHD and listening helps really. Thank you. Oh, we have
That
a
is
teenager on
amazing.
tonight. All right. Jay Lucy, I appreciate you sharing that. God bless
And
you.
and for the males that are out there too, I'm a part of an ADHD men's support group, and the co-creator of it, Mark Adovar, one of like he's like a best friend, brother to me. He is a wonderful ADHD coach as well too. Definitely reach out to him as well. There's so many of them that we can
Yes.
link you with. So just give us a DM. Let us know.
I love it. ADHD underscore John John with two zeros, not O's. Um, ADHD with
Somebody gonna
sleep.
do it. Somebody's
I
gonna
know
do
that.
it. Trust me.
Okay. Exactly. Or we can talk about ADHD and sleep. Yeah. ADHD and going to college. My 17-year-old is preparing to attend. Any advice? Oh, yeah. I have,
Ooh.
I have
Oh,
a
you
time
know
for that.
this.
Oh, yes. I have a list. Yeah. Yeah. John, I know we can really share. Okay. So we got some good things. It's gonna cut us off in 26 seconds. Anything else, John, you wanna say?
Nothing that I can really think of. Just thank you guys for allowing us to be in your space, be a part of your time, and hopefully you learned something from this.
Yes, we love you, y'all. We love you and happy ADHD Awareness Month. And we'll be back next week.
Yes,
All
man,
right.
we will.